I knew I was bigger than basketball. Not bigger than the game itself, but I knew I had more to offer the world than just my ability to dribble, shoot, and pass.
Hoop loud.
You're of the selected few that I felt did a great job in making that transition. Understanding that all this hard work you put in the game of basketball didn't have to stop at basketball. And there's some guys that played in the league 15, 20 years that don't know how to make that transition. How were you able to make that transition and realize that you could brand yourself, you could pattern your life much after the discipline that you set at the game of basketball to serve you beyond basketball? Because a lot of people feel like it's just coaching. Okay, play basketball, supposed to be a coach. Play basketball, supposed to be a sports agent. Play basketball, maybe athletic trainer. But man, you've built something beyond what we even thought was conceivable. How did you get to that point, and was there anyone that gave you permission about it?
That's a great question. Thank you for the compliment. My mother, I'll give credit to, had my sister and I. My sister's a year older than me. She had us reading books from a very young age. She's a teacher herself, so she was big into education and knowing your stuff and discipline. So I was always into reading books. I was always into learning. I still read a lot of books. I've read hundreds of books in my life now, in the distance of books that I've written myself. So I always saw myself as more than an athlete. Basketball was not a yellow brick road for me. It wasn't this paved perfect road. Even during my pro career, once it started, there were still many ups and downs. There were times I didn't have a contract. There were times I didn't know what my next prospect was going to be. There were times I didn't have an agent. There were times nobody was taking my calls or responding to my emails. And that was at the point, this is around 2009, I asked myself a good question. I said, okay, if I'm going to have some power in my life, it can't be just me expecting somebody to sign me to a contract.
Yeah.
Because even if they do, what about when I can't play anymore? Now where do I get my power from? I'm not signed any more contracts. Who am I? Mm-hmm. I'm just a guy. I'm just an ex-basketball player. And nobody cares about an ex-basketball player. They care about the current guys, but not the ex-guys. So what can I do? This is the good question. What can I do to where I still do what I love to do, which is be around basketball and share with people my experiences and what I learned mentally that can apply to basketball and everything else? How can I do that while still having some power for myself? I knew I was bigger than basketball. Not bigger than the game itself, but I knew I had more to offer the world than just my ability to dribble, shoot, and pass. There are players out there better than me. I mean, Kobe Bryant and LeBron James or Michael Jordan are better basketball players than me. Who am I? You know, Michael Jordan, basketball. Tiger Woods, golf. Serena Williams, tennis. Dre, I can't be basketball. So what is it? What do I bring to the table besides just being an athlete? Because just on that alone, I wouldn't be that valuable because there are other people with way bigger names than me. So I knew I had to bring something else to the table to have that significance because that mattered to me.
Yeah. You spoke a little bit about books, man. One book that I haven't even dove into, but I've read some excerpts about it and seen some interviews. There was one by Malcolm Gladwell. He talks about David and Goliath. And the premise of that book, of what I've gained so far, was basically it was a basketball team that noticeably had some disadvantages. And when I look at your story, look at my own story, it seemed that there were some definite disadvantages starting out with the game of basketball. But it's funny how you're able, if you stay in it long enough, you're able to use that what seemed to be a disadvantage on the front end as an advantage on the tail end. Yes.
Perspective. I never thought of it like that, but absolutely, you're right.
Yeah. When you first got started playing basketball, look, you were not strong in the weight room. You were one-dimensional, but you grew and continued to do your thing. When you first got started public speaking, I don't know, was it a situation that you were just a natural? More oftentimes than not, it wasn't, but you continued to grow. So what I'm trying to say is, I want you to speak towards it because I've seen this in watching your brand. But I wish more people would talk to student athletes about, look, dude, you are battle tested. What you have gone through already will serve you beyond the game. You can be successful without going to play Division I basketball and without going to the NBA. What you've learned in the game of basketball stretches beyond basketball. You can apply it to anything you want to apply it to.
And coming from playing sports, again, there are so many things that you learn, so many disciplines that you learn, so many mental traits that you learn playing a sport that can apply to anyone at work. I mean, nobody feels like going to practice every day all 4 years, but you still show up and do it. The same way people don't feel like going to work every day. And they do feel like that, even though they may not say it. So people want to learn that, the confidence of showing up day after day, the mental toughness of you continue to show up. You get passed over for a promotion at work. They don't feel like working. The same way that player who didn't get in the game last night still got to come to practice the next day. So understanding that things that you learn playing sports apply across all platforms. Anything that other people do that don't even play sports, it applies. And the fact that you play the sport gets people's attention because most people don't play college sports, let alone pro sports. Playing a college sport, you are in a very small percentage amongst the general population of even people who play the sport that you played in college, let alone playing in the pros. So there's an immense value in that. And one thing that I've seen so much of, and I'm sure you see also, does that so much of that value just goes to waste. They go do something that has nothing to do with the sport, which is nothing wrong with that, but they're not taking all that value, that 10 years, that 20 years that they put into that sport. They don't have an avenue to get that out to other people in a way that they can use it.
Hoop loud.